that outside?
Yeah,
Oh,
that's what I'm saying. Like,
oh,
it's been pretty quiet,
yeah,
so I think I'm just gonna leave the garage door open.
yeah,
When it's so nice like this, I just kind of want to get that breeze in. But
yeah. It's nice.
if it does get nuts, then I'll close it.
Yeah, let's hope it stays cool, so we can keep the door open.
Right on. Hey everybody, I'm here with Noel Sylvain, the star producer of and actor of the UncleKnow show. Noel, thank you so much for joining me on this gorgeous Memorial Day. And right before we started, I just found out that you were in the military, so thank you for your service as well.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, 4 years Air Force, 6 years Army. Yeah.
And were you looking to make that a career, or were you just looking for something to do?
Well, at the time, really, it was an escape. Me joining because I joined the Air Force right out of high school, and for me, it was an opportunity to get away because I grew up in a household that wasn't the most conducive for your growth. So my first opportunity to get away, I figured, I joined the Air Force. I'll get away from y'all, so.
I think that's how a lot of people have, ran off to join the Navy or whatever, the military, just to get away from their home life situation. Mm-hmm. Yeah. This
is the first time you can actually run away from home and they don't send you back.
No, they're happy. They're happy to have you.
They're happy to have you.
More fodder, more cannon fodder.
Yeah, the Air Force loved me.
So you're in the Air Force from the time we were like 17, 18 to 21?
Yeah, I joined up at 19, right after high school. So and that was in 1980, and then I got out in at the end of 1984. So from 19 to what is that, 23?
Yeah.
I was in the Air Force, and then I got out. And, I had things I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to be a police officer, so that was the reason I got out.
I see.
Yeah, and there's a history behind me wanting to be a police officer. That never came to fruition, but I did go after it down in L.A. But it was during that time in L.A. where they really wasn't looking to hire black people to be police officers.
And why not?
Well, L.A., as we know, had and mind you, we're talking about 1985.
Okay.
And so they didn't have the best relationship with our community because it was a time of gangs violence, supposedly. Rap.
Freeway Rick Ross era.
Yeah. And this is the time when rap was coming on, and in our communities, we really didn't get along with police officers that well, especially in L.A. And that was the time they had Daryl Gates on the battering ram. They were using a battering ram to go into people's houses. So it was never a good feel for us, a good environment for us as citizens down in LA. So to want to be a police officer back in those days, I just thought, because my whole feeling was that you can't change the system unless you get involved in the system. You get inside, then you can change it. But they wasn't allowing too many of us to get inside at the time, and which was really shocking because I remember when I went for my interview, the Black Police Officers Association was there. And I talked to them before I went into my interview, and they were like, wow. They were confident. They were like, all right, we're looking at our next officer. And then when I walked out, they were so upset.
And why do you think that they turned you down? You had a military record, you seem like someone who might be a
Yeah. Yeah, I was clean cut, Air Force guy, military, honorable discharge, did my overseas and marksman and my firearms. And it was just... I remember they had this one officer on the panel, and she was asking me about gangs and being in gangs. And I didn't know nothing about being in no gang. This is down in L.A. Now, I'm from New Orleans. Okay. So I'm from New Orleans for all you listening out there. He didn't even say it right, New Orleans. That's for you California people, but I'm from New Orleans. And we were just raised a certain way, and I didn't know anything about gangs and racism and all this stuff until I moved to California. So she was asking me about gangs, and I'm like, I don't have anything to do with gangs,
Like insinuating that you might be.
Because I'm black, I guess I should have been associated with some gang, but I grew up in the valley, in Pacoima, in the San Fernando Valley, And on Hanson Hills, we didn't have gangs. You know, we just had fun. We had our friends and things. And the school I went to was a mostly white school, you know, Polytechnic. And so I didn't know anything about gangs other than I would never. It was just certain words you knew not to use.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't use cuz and blood and all that stuff because I'm like, I used to tell her, hey, I'm a man of God. I ain't into all of this cuz and blood stuff. So I would never use that. And so you didn't want to use it because if you weren't a part of that environment, you never knew who was around.
Gotcha.
You know, so you were very careful in some of the words, some of the select words you would use. If you're in LA, you're like, you don't know what to say. You know,
because that could put a mark on you, or someone could think that you're down with the gang or whatever. When you're not.
I remember guys would walk by, "What's up, cuz?" You know, like, "What's up, my brother?" That was always my response. "What's up, my brother? What's up, my sister?" I would never do that same greeting that they would give me.
It's funny now that kind of language has almost become part of our culture. Like we hear, I don't know, not only just white kids, like any kids talking that way to themselves. Like the whole nefarious history, shall we say, of the LA gangs has kind of just been washed through the culture. Yeah. And now it's just a part of it. Yeah. Now it's not a big deal anymore. You know, it's acceptable now. You know, and you're right. I remember I was sitting on a bus one time and I kept hearing these kids behind me, you know, in this, and I don't know if we can say certain words on the air. Oh, yeah, but I'm a comedian. I can say what I want. But you know, yeah, that nigga was this, and it was. And I mean, they were just going at it, talking, having fun, and laughing. And I looked back, and it was a gang of white kids. I'm like, man. I was like, you couldn't tell the difference. They just on the bus, just having a good time, you know. And then they had a Mexican dude with them and a black dude with them too. But the majority of the kids were white. And I was like, man, things have changed. Speaking of comedy, did you ever see that Did you ever watch the Dave Chappelle show?
Yeah.
Where he's the blind KKK
guy? Dave Chappelle's a comedic genius. The man's a genius. Some of the things that he would do on his show, he's kind of like he was a barrier breaker for us, for a lot of comedians nowadays, especially in nowadays when everything is kind of being censored. You know, everybody's so sensitive now. You can't say certain things now. And I was watching this show where now they're even censoring comedians, you know, and things of this nature. But Dave Chappelle, you got to give him credit. He would never sell out, even when they tried to give him all that money. And Dave Chappelle's like, no, if I can't have my freedom and my liberty to do what I want to do, how I want to do it, which any artist would want to have. Can you imagine being a painter and somebody want to try to tell you how to paint? No. It's like, wait a minute, that's not being creative. You know, so we had to give, and I think that's the reason why Dave Chappelle is held in high regard today, is because he stood on his values. You know, which is really good. But yeah, things have changed. Things that used to be taboo and things you couldn't say and things you couldn't do, you can do it nowadays. You know. Well,
I was speaking of that. The censorship thing is kind of ridiculous. There's almost like a word police out there. I had some writers on the show a couple weeks ago, and we talked about the pressure of like having to justify the words that you're using. And I heard a really ironic example recently. I was at, it was a corporate event, but it was like a party, and they were playing hip hop music. Right. And I'm not up on who it was, but the song had the word retard in it, and they bleeped it. Right. The song had bitches in it, and they just let it play, and I'm like, wait a second. Right. You know, like some of the words, it's like, oh, which word is more powerful? You know, and that's the thing about being a writer is that words have power. As you know from being a comedian, words it's a specific word that you choose in a specific place that makes what you're saying so powerful. Right, and it has to be. The one thing we don't want, especially as comedians, and even with doing the UncleKnow show, when I write it, I'm not really, and I'm going to say this the way I feel, I really don't care. You know, what somebody else is thinking, because you're going to have sensitive people. Yeah. And most of their sensibilities is not coming from the way they were raised, but coming from public opinion. Most of our sensitivities really has nothing to do with you and your morals and your values, but you're worried about and thinking about what somebody else is going to think about it, how that person is going to feel. And I think you should let that person feel how they're going to feel and not let it affect and change you. Yeah. And we need to stop giving into that. So even when I write for the UncleKnow show, one of our ideas, and what my idea is to it's kind of like break down those walls
of this censorship that we have where people can't say what you want to say anymore. You can't even joke anymore about stuff. Stuff is not funny anymore. Everything's so, oh, you hurt my feelings, or that was insensitive, you know. And I'm like, you can't even say the word midget anymore. I remember I was talking about these buildings in San Francisco and how now we got these towering buildings making the other buildings look like midgets. And somebody wrote me, you can't say midgets. I'm like, I can't even say midget anymore? Who am I offending? When you say midget, I'm like, I'm talking about a building. How are you going to compare yourself to a building and get offended? But somebody will get offended because I said the word midget.
This is the thing, is like, there is no one's taking into account intent.
Yeah.
You can say any word in a variety of ways, right?
Right.
Like you were talking about these kids on the bus.
Yeah.
You know, they were having fun.
Having a good time.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No.
It's like recognize intent.
Right. Which is important.
Intent is everything. You can say good morning in a really mean way.
Right. And it won't mean good morning.
No.
And you know by the way they saying it, they're really not saying good morning to you, because you see, especially my people, if they upset with you, they got a way of saying good morning to where you know, like, oh, she's upset with me, or he's not feeling me today. You know, because of how you say it. And like you said, the intent behind it, the meaning behind it. But when people are just having fun and not being so concerned about everybody else around them, then that's exactly what it is. It's genuine. You know, if I'm not, and I tell people this all the time, listen, if I'm not involved in your conversation, you know, and you guys are having a conversation between yourselves, why am I going to get upset?
Yeah.
First of all, I'm really not paying attention to your conversation because I'm not even involved in it. You know, and I think that's partially because I got this ringing in my ear from the military that they gave me, so I really don't pay attention if I'm not involved in the conversation. But I really don't get offended. What I try to do, I try to understand people. Because we all come from different walks of life. I grew up in, like I said, I grew up down in the South, which is totally different than California. I don't care what nobody say. We are just totally different people. Our values and morals down South are different than California values and morals. But does that mean we're not supposed to get along? Does that mean we're not supposed to understand each other and say, well, that's cool if that's the way you feel, but this is how I feel, but we can still pound fists and say, well, it's all good. Because you're going to respect me, I respect you. So what's the problem? What you do in your house is your business. And what I do in my house is my business. As long as when we come together, we can get the job done and focus on what we're doing.
It's about not always having to agree 100% down the line with someone in order to be friends with them or work with them, or, you know, whatever it is that things have become so compartmentalized. Like, you're either on this side or you're on the bad side.
Right.
You're a Nazi, you're a racist, you're homophobic, whatever it is.
Right.
It's like we're not seeing people as individuals, as the, you know, the product of all those choices that they've made from when they were a little baby to the person that you stand in front of you right now.
Right.
There's a lot of things going on there.
Yeah.
And it's certainly much easier to see them as just a white dude or, you know, a black guy, but that's not the truth, and you're not doing yourselves any favors. Like you said, when you are having a conversation with people, you're studying people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, getting that intuition, getting down to who that person really is, because it's really like disingenuous. It's like you can either approach me as an individual, or you can already see what I am. You know,
right? Yeah, because and you're right. Either you're going to approach somebody for being a person, or you're going to approach them like with you and I today. Now I can approach you. Well, he's a white dude, so let me approach him a certain way, or he's a Mexican dude. Let me approach him a certain way. And that's to me, now that's racist.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm going to approach you because of how you look on the outside. I ain't spent 5 minutes with you. I don't know nothing about your past, what you done been through, what you have endured. You know, the things that you have seen that shaped you and gave you the character and the morals. I have no idea what that is, but I'm automatically just going to judge you based on some outward appearance. Yeah. Now, that is ridiculous. And I think when you meet somebody, you should meet them as just what they are, a creation of God. Man, woman, don't matter, but that's who they are. Now, I got some other people go, well, I don't believe in God. Well, that don't mean that's fine for you.
Right.
That's fine for you.
Recognize what matters in that statement.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, but that's and see, I'm glad you say that, because most people will go, well, wow, he sees me higher than maybe what I see myself. Because if I'm seeing you as a creation of God, that's a high standard to hold somebody. Because you're saying, wow, you're worth all of that and more. Because to me, there's nothing more precious on this planet than us people, the creation of God. And I remember, it's so funny because just as I said that, I'm remembering this skit that I want to do for the UncleKnow show. And it's about how we react when we see people compared to when we see people with dogs. Man, you can walk past people all day, try to say good morning, good afternoon to them. They'll dismiss you and just keep walking. But walk up with a dog and watch people just change into jellyfish. You know, you can watch the hardest person just go from, whoa, what's up, man, to, well, look at that dog, it's so cute. I'm like, wait a minute, you wouldn't even say hi to me.
I know.
But you see a dog and you just break down and get down on your knees and let the dog lick you all in your face. You don't know where that dog been.
You do know where it's been.
And I can't even shake your hand, but you let a dog lick you in the face. Like, come on. We got it. And that's the thing which is a great thing about the show that I'm doing and being a comedian. I don't know how I became a comedian, but I am in a way. But I'm more of a writer and a director and a producer and an actor. But what I get to do, I get to bring forth everything that's inside of me, all of the experiences of my life, everything that I've been through, everything that I've endured, how I raised my kids. And that's what we're doing on the UncleKnow show, is that we get to bring to life things that actually happen.
Yeah.
You know, in my perspective and how I've grown to be who I am today because of those experiences in my past, which were in most cases terrible.
But you can laugh about them now.
But you can laugh about them now. And that's what I think what makes comedians and what makes comedy funny, is that we're taking something that was really tragic and presenting it to you in such a way that you could swallow it.
Well, I think the most interesting people I've ever met in my life have been people who have had messed up childhoods.
Oh, Lord, yeah.
You know, I am one of them.
Yeah,
I'm one of them, you know. And,
Ooh.
you know, that's so funny because it's like, I want my kids to always be safe, be well taken care of, fed, you know, clean clothes, all that.
Yeah.
But I don't want them to be boring either. And,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
it seems like there's only, it's either or. It's like everybody that I know that's been super interesting has been messed up.
Yeah, we come from some hard places. And I've come from a place where where we felt like slaves. You know, and the person that was in charge of us was the worst Klan person in the world. And don't get me wrong, I'm talking about my grandmother. I had a grandmother, and we love her to death. She passed some years back, but she was very, very, very violent, and she was the type of woman that would beat you for stuff that you wasn't going to even do yet, because she just thought you would do it. And I would tell people this thing when I remember when my voice changed. Because I used to have that Michael Jackson voice. And then I got this voice one day, and she got so mad, and her thing, oh, you think you're a man now, nigga? And she beat me with a baseball bat.
Michael Jackson.
Because my voice was changing. You know, but that's how she was. You know, and people say, well, how can you love her? How can you love her? I say, because what I did, and my sister Bunny was really good at this too, we went into her past because we wanted to understand why she was the way that she was.
Where I was going to go. Like,
yeah.
What happened with
her?
Yeah.
And so that's what we want to know. And come to find out for her, she was never allowed to have a childhood. You know, because back in those days, you know, especially with black families, it wasn't like you're going to get a good job and a good place to stay. So everybody had to work. Everybody had to contribute to the family, to the success of the family, feeding the family, housing the family, which I wish we would get back to today. You know, and because of that, she wasn't allowed to have that childhood, to have all that fun time. And at this point of her life now, where she's a grandmother, instead of her just being able to be a grandmother, where we would go see her on the weekends, even though we didn't want to do that either, because she was even mean before. We were scared to go see her on the weekends when our dad would take us to go see her. But she never had that opportunity, and it overtook her. It consumed her. You know, like you were saying, the way you grew up and the way that I grew up, you know, it was real violent for me. It was. I tell people to this day, I'm what is year 2018? I'll be 57 in July. I still don't sleep well because I was never able to sleep well when I was a kid, because she would terrorize you in the middle of the night. She would come in through the house, and so we would always kind of like sleep on the edge. And so still to this day, I don't sleep well. So one of the things that doing the show and being a comedian and being an actor is that it's kind of like therapeutic
Yeah.
for a lot of us. We get to release all
Cathartic,
that.
yeah.
So people ask me about acting. Did you go to acting school? I was like, no. I say all of this is already inside of me. Because I had to, even as a kid, you kind of had to act a certain way when I got around certain people. Otherwise, you're going to get beat down. And so to prevent that, you just had to carry yourself a certain way. But you do spin because it is so traumatic. And for us, for some of us, we spend the majority of our adulthood trying to get over our childhood.
Yeah. I was there I was a really angry young man.
Yeah.
I used to get beat.
Yeah.
And I just felt like my parents put me
Now,
in
did you
bad
get
situations.
spankings? I don't know, because you're a white dude. I don't know if you guys got beat. Because when you say beat, what do you mean by beat?
I'm talking about my mom would keep me back from school because I would be all bruised and stuff.
Oh,
She
yeah.
didn't want people asking questions.
Yeah, that's beat.
And they came from a place of anger. She was mad. My dad wasn't there.
Yeah.
And she was mad about it. She herself had a really, I thought my childhood was bad. Her childhood, holy cow.
Yeah.
That come to find out all these years later. But,
Yeah.
again, it's just, you're right. You spend a lot of time trying to get over your childhood. And
Right.
that's one of the things that I kind of, as soon as I was able to kind of just forgive,
Mm-hmm.
that anger and that hatred and that that loathing and is forgiving yourself too, because it's like, okay,
Yeah.
you were just a kid.
Yeah.
You were just a kid.
Yeah.
That wasn't right.
Right.
And as soon as I started to come to those terms, it's like probably in my late 20s when I was just like, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And then it's interesting now, not having my dad around. I got two boys, it's like
Mm-hmm.
I have a chance to make a huge difference and to swing this family in a whole different direction. Because, families, they occupy a space of momentum. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, my family does this. We're butchers or we're boxers or whatever it is. And that abuse is part of that. I have the chance, I've been blessed enough to have that chance to break that.
Yeah,
To
break that cycle.
chain,
Yeah.
To put our family as people who are positive, who are gentle, who are kind,
Right.
all these things that I felt like, that's the kind of family I want to be from.
Right. Right.
So
And it's not always easy. I tell people, for everybody that's listening out there, let me tell you, it's not always easy. And don't blame yourself because it's not easy. The things you went through in your past and how you're still dealing with them today. Sometimes, because you hear people tell you that, just get over it.
Yeah.
Some things you just don't get over.
Yeah.
Because they become a part of who you are, and it makes you who you are. Like for me, it took me up to I was 50. Before I kind of got a grip on things. And it's only because a lot of things I was doing was not conducive to my growth.
Yeah.
How I was living, places I was working. Even though I was talented, and no matter where I worked, I would excel. But I never. It's about fitting in and feeling comfortable in a place. I never felt comfortable in any place that I worked. Because I would always see and be witness to all the negativity. May it be, let it be racism or feminism or whatever. These things, I would always be witness to these things because I would wind up being in a supervisory position or a management position at whatever job I've had. And now you're taking on a different perspective to these things. Now you're getting to see how these people on the other side of the desk, think and some of the rules that they would come up with. And I remember sitting back with higher ups, having these type of conversations with them. And I remember one we had about how people talk.
Yeah.
And I was working with the post office at the time, and somebody had filed a grievance about how somebody would talk. And I remember going, because I was the supervisor at the time, so I went to go to represent for that. And they have what is it called, the person that sits there between the two parties?
An arbiter?
Thank you. An arbitration. So we was at arbitration, and thank God the guy was black. We just happened to have the judge to be black. Because they were talking about because the conversation was how some of the black employees talk. You know, and some of us are from different areas. Like when you're from the South, you just talk a little differently. The words you use are a little differently. And I remember that conversation, and I went to them, and I remember talking to the arbitrator, and I was telling him, I said, listen, I said, do we complain? Because we had people from all walks of life with the post office, Russians, Puerto Ricans, Filipinos, it didn't matter. But they were all allowed to speak their language at work. And so that was my speaking point. That was my defense, in other words, for us at the post office, was like, we don't tell people that speak Spanish not to speak Spanish. You know, or people that's from New York, they talk a certain way. People from Boston have an accent, they talk a certain way. People that's from Russia that work here, they all speak their language here at work. People that's from India, but we can't speak our language here at work. That ended that conversation really fast. Wow. Those people that were sitting over there complaining, the arbitrator looked at them and was like, do you really wish to continue this conversation? And they was like, oh no, we'll kind of end it right here. Because my whole thing is, if you're going to censor us on how we talk, you better tell everybody in here they better not speak nothing but the Queen's English. Yeah. And they weren't willing to do that. No. So that kind of ended that conversation. It's like, okay, everybody gets to talk, because we weren't being vile. We just have a certain way of speaking.
Yeah. Well, I always think that the way that different groups of people communicate is like kind of like a cultural kind of music, you know, or poetry, like the cadence of the way certain, like you said, from the South. Yeah, that's a perfect example of the way there's like a very distinct cadence. Yeah. So
it's rhythmic, really. When I remember I had to take people down to the South, and I used to always talk about how we are down South, and people didn't believe you until they actually got down there. You know, because out here in California, which is fine. I'm not down in California. I live here. I make my living here, and California has been good to me. But it's just they're a little bit more sterile out here. You know, like when you walk in a restaurant, good evening. How you doing, sir? How you doing, ma'am? And down south, you walk to a restaurant, hey, baby, how you doing? Y'all come on in, darling. Grab yourself a seat. What you want to eat, baby? Okay, you want some of that? Oh, we can make that for you. It's totally different. It's a different greeting down south. It's a different feel. There's a different, because it's all about love and family.
Yeah, it's very personable.
Yeah.
It's a way of making someone who's a complete stranger feel welcome.
Yeah.
And welcome. But, you know, I'm reminded of a statement, I can't remember who said it, but it kind of goes something like, all art is autobiographical. And so, turning back to the UncleKnow show, tell me about how you're using, because we've talked about, you know, time in the military, time in the work environment, growing up, how hard that is.
Right.
What kind of inspiration are you drawing, and what wells are you bringing stuff up from?
Well, let me give you a little background about the UncleKnow show. Now, I did a commercial with Stephen Curry around 2 years ago, and when I remember going to the audition, they never tell you much about what it's about. But when I got the audition, they told me, okay, you're going to be playing a janitor in a gym, and these kids are shooting basketball, and you want to tell them how to shoot basketball. And so you tell them, what they told me to say, hang that hand. Or,
hang that hand.
I think they told me to tell them hang that hand. So I thought about it for a quick minute. And this is what I thought. So for people out there listening, I was like, nah, I'm an old janitor in the gym, a black janitor in the gym. There's a certain way we would say that. So at the audition, when they said, okay, go, I went, you got to hang that hand, baby. You know how we do it? And those people went nuts. You know, and that's how I wound up getting the commercial. And that's when I found out it was Steph. So when we actually did the shooting of the commercial, I had been informed by my agency that they were changing the commercial. They didn't want me to be the janitor. And I was kind of like upset. I'm like, what do you mean they don't want me to be the janitor? That's the part, you know. And so when I got to the set, the director, the producer, the writers, all of them surrounded me. It's like, listen, we're changing the commercial. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, I heard you're changing the commercial. They said, but we're changing the commercial around you. So you're not going to be the janitor, but you're going to be like the star of the commercial. So everything we're doing is around you. So we don't really have lines for you. So you just do whatever you want to do, say whatever you want to say. We just want to get it on film. And I was like, oh, okay. So it was the coolest thing. And then when Steph came on to the set, and he hugged me, and we talked for a long, awesome guy, y'all. This man is awesome cat. A very good man.
I mean, I don't think there's probably a negative thing you can say about him, except for that he throws his mouthpiece occasionally.
Yeah, the mouthpiece thing. He did curse the other day, though. His mama got on him about that on the floor. but that just passion came out on him when he said, "This is my effing house." So I guess Christians are not supposed to curse. Like really coming to a parking lot after church, you'll hear a lot of cursing. You got more sermons going on in the parking lot than you ever have going on in church. Yeah, certain people at the church, stay away from them. Some of y'all know what I'm talking about. They will curse you out quick, and then at the end of it, say, "God bless you." Wait a minute, you gonna curse me out and say, "God bless you"? But he's an awesome guy. So we did the commercial, and I remember Steph walking up to me, and the director and producer was like, "Man, you got to do a show. With that character, you have to do a show." And so now I'm so blessed that we're actually doing the show. So the UncleKnow show, that's where it came from. And so what I get to do really is to present important, relevant topics to America and to people watching. But we're doing it in a comedic way because, like we said earlier, most comedians come from a place of pain. That's what makes them so funny, because they really, when people think they're talking about other people, comedians are really talking about themselves and what they have seen and what they have endured. They just, because of how we see things, which is totally different, we can present it to you in such a way that's funny, because that's, for us, it's healing. So for the UncleKnow show, and for all my awesome cast that I have on the show, this is a way of me presenting to everybody who I am. Because I can tell you to this day, I've been out here a long time, and a lot of people say they know me, but they really don't. A lot of people think they know who Noel Silve is, but they really don't, because there's only so much of me I'll let you see, and that I'll let you get to know. Like you and I at work. There's moments where you get to see me, I guess, which is the reason why I'm here. Because there were some moments at work when we would talk that you got to see a part of who I am. But if you was to ask most people who say they know me about me, they would say, "Well, he's an actor and he writes and he's doing this show." And they say, "But no, tell me something about him." They really wouldn't be able to go in depth, because I really don't let people see that.
And is that a product of how you grew up, do you think? Or
Yeah.
is just you being really careful with yourself, because there's still a tender little kid in there.
Yeah.
You don't want to let people get at.
I really don't trust anybody with me. I really don't. I really don't trust anybody with me. I don't trust myself that much with me. I don't, to be honest with you. I've been, in my past, I've been self-destructive, because I didn't think I ever deserved anything good, because I never heard anything good when I was a kid. It was always negative. You ain't this, you ain't that. I tell people I didn't know what my name was until I was like 16 years old, because before then I just knew it was negative. That's all we would hear. They're going to get you out of there. That's all we would hear, hollering and screaming. And so I never thought I deserved anything. So when anything good would come into my life, at some point I would mess it up. At some point I would mess it up, because I was still, and to tell the truth, I tell everybody the truth, I wish I'd have had therapy. After I got out of that situation, out of that violence, and went to the Air Force, and I should have been in therapy that whole time.